Hey guys, Martin here, bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle video, and so today we are going to talk about INT Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta and Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta and kind of even just Gogeta in general, as we ask the question, is this the most anticipated EZA upcoming in 2025? Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta is now one of, if not the oldest, Dokkan Fest exclusive that does not have an EZA, releasing on the 30th of October in 2020 for JP, and then the 1st of February for 2021. I remember I live streamed summons for this guy. It was like in the morning after getting home from working a night shift when I still had my last job, and basically getting home from work, just going live as soon as the banner was out, and summoning for this guy. And I'm pretty sure I remember getting fairly lucky. I think I pulled 3 copies of him to obviously get that sweet 79% with all the 2 important dupe paths opened and the gold equip slot. Although actually, did we even have skill orbs then? I'm trying to remember now. But yeah, I can't remember when skill orbs came out. Somebody remind me in the comments. But yeah, this guy was super good. And the funny thing is, when you look at his passive now and you think about like how units are now, it's kind of crazy to think that this guy like was in argument for being the best TY in the game when he came out, when his passive is basically really nothing but raw stats, right? His attack and defense 200%, and then for 8 turns from the entry turn he gets 4 key and 40% attack and defense. Obviously for most TURs, like this 4 key, as long as you're getting 1 key link active with him from any other unit, he's basically going to be guaranteed supering. And then the extra 40% attack and defense is obviously nice as well. And then starting from the 9th turn, he had a high chance to be effective against all types, because yeah, as part of the 8 turns, he's just effective against all types, which is a very typical Gogeta thing, right? Gogeta units being effective against all types. And when he received a super attack, he had a high chance to nullify and counter with tremendous power. Now, it's funny because he was so good on release, but when he came out, straight away, one of the things that people complained about was the fact that his super attack counter was only a high chance to counter, because this, of course, was the second standalone Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta that released in the game, right? We originally got the tech one, who pre-EZA, very basic. Like, it's even crazier to think about this guy coming out in 2017. Passives didn't even have defense. Like, his passive was 120 attack and then extreme enemies attack and defense down. But he had the 70% chance to counter supers. Of course, this guy had his own interesting release, right, with Global, with the to be released, because of course him and Omega released at the same time on both JP and Global, which was not a very commonly done thing. In fact, I think this might have even been the first major like dual Dokkan Fest type thing that actually did release on both versions at the same time. And I've made videos in the past talking about how I feel like this was a massive W for global players to get the unit early, even if he didn't have a leader skill. Like, if the 2 options were to be released or we just had to wait 6 months to get Gogeta, like, I'm happy that we got Gogeta straight away, even without a leader skill, because I pulled him and he was super fun to run on the physical Vegito Blue Superclass team. The Super Saiyan 3 Goku came out not long after him for the proper Super Tech 120 team. So as a global player, I was really happy to have this guy as soon as he came out. But yeah, he was an interesting unit on release, the first standalone Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. He had a great chance to counter, and this guy only had a 50% chance to counter. I think at the time, people essentially just kind of argued that if he had the 70% chance on top of everything else that he was doing, he would be too good. Because, yeah, in the meta at the time, like, even just having raw stats on a stick, which is basically all he is, apart from the counter, I guess, is, yeah, like, that would just be too much on top if he was also 70% chance to counter supers. The funny thing is, of course, because he greatly raises attack and defense on super attack anyway, like, after supering especially, there weren't really events back then that could really do much damage to him, even if he didn't actually counter the super anyway. So yeah, he was definitely arguably one of the best TURs. His active skill gives him a permanent attack and defense 40% and all enemies attack and defense. I say permanent. Attack and defense 40% and all enemies attack and defense minus 40% for 1 turn. So it's a big 1 turn buff. It can be activated after he receives 4 or more attacks. So ideally, I mean, it's not difficult, right? Like, you get this within the first 8 turns. So he still has his extra 40% for the first 8 turns. You pop this and then you've got an even bigger buff. Now, the interesting thing is for this guy getting an EZA is, of course, like, active skill conditions can't change. So receiving 4 or more attacks, that's fine. The thing for this guy to be really, really good, because raw stats are not really going to cut it nowadays, and a 50% chance to counter a super, obviously against, like, the toughest enemies in the game, if you put this guy in slot 1 and he doesn't counter the super, then he's going to die, right? Now, depending on what they do with the rest of his kit for his EZA, I'm not necessarily going to predict that they will increase his super attack counter chance, because the 50% I think could still be workable if the rest of his kit is obviously very, very good. Although, of course, if we look at the other Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta in the game, is the transformed version of the 7-year LRs. And this guy, after transforming, he has a 50%, is it 50%? He nullifies guaranteed if you're facing one enemy and that enemy's HP is 50% or less, which is crazy. Otherwise, they did actually up it to 70, because pre-EZA, this guy had a 50% chance as well. So it kind of seemed like this was going to be the norm now going forwards for Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. Of course, the tech one got an EZA and it remained at 70%, because it would have been kind of wild for it to go up any higher than that. But this guy, as part of his EZA, they actually did give him 70% chance to counter. And this guy's insane, right? Like, on turn 1, he goes back to having the 77% chance damage reduction for 1 turn and has guard. So, like, there's no reason why this guy couldn't be that good, even if it was just for the first turn. Like, this guy, I could see him being a mini version of the LR, where him having damage reduction, even if he has damage reduction only before he attacks, that would be incredibly powerful for him for being able to go in slot 1. But yeah, the big thing that we need to see from his EZA is definitely more defensive tech. Because if we take a look at this guy who got his EZA during the anniversary a couple of years back, it's not really anything all that crazy. Like, basic stats were not that high. The attack debuffing of the extreme enemies, a lot of events you just can't do that anyway, so not really that relevant. And then obviously still had the 70% chance to super. For every super attack performed, he builds up stats for 5 turns, which it's not bad, but it's nothing like he's not a unit that you can put in slot 1. You know, 70% chance to counter supers is all well and good, but some of the harder hitting enemies now that are even doing like over 1 million damage with their normal attacks, like, it's the same with Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks in a lot of events, right? Where, like, if Gotenks gets supered first and he gets that defense proc, he's then tanking all over the place. But if he doesn't get supered first, against some of the harder hitting bosses, if he's in slot 1, he actually does take pretty significant damage from normal attacks. So that was the biggest problem with the tech Gogeta EZA, is that he just really didn't have anything major in the way of extra defensive tech, which meant, not that, you know, it's not that the Gogeta, it's like he doesn't have to be a slot 1 unit. Like, still very solid after attacking. And of course, remember that the INT one greatly raises attack and defense for 1 turn. So whilst I don't necessarily see this being raised to anything higher than greatly raised, if it was massively raised, that would actually be crazy. Could be something cool like greatly raises attack and defense for 3 turns. That would be nice. I mean, they could make it infinite stacking on both as well. For longer events, that would definitely be very interesting. I think ideally what we want is like this 8 turns extra buff. Like, I feel like they should just be incorporated into his EZA passive, right? Just like put his attack and defense to like 250 and attacks effective against all types all the time. And then for 8 turns from the character's turn, from entry turn, they could then give him like guard, maybe a certain amount of damage reduction, and then he could build up damage reduction with each super attack or something, so that while you're still in that 8 turns range and he's gotten a few supers off, he would be really, really strong defensively. And then once the 8 turns has worn off, ideally by then you've built up a decent amount of base damage reduction with his super attacks. And then obviously the icing on the cake would of course be if they do make his chance to super attack a great chance at 70%. And then this active skill, they can't, as I said, they can't change this with an EZA, but obviously with much higher stats and then building up damage reduction, having guard for a certain number of turns, if you then throw a multiplicative 40% attack and defense on top of that, I would imagine that during the first few turns, if we say we are giving him like limited turns guard or something, with the active skill active as well, like he would just be able to tank pretty much everything and then, you know, have a 50% chance to counter supers at a minimum, because, you know, if we're really lucky, it will be 70%. Now, the big thing with this Gogeta is we are hoping, of course, for buffs to Giant 8 power, whether it is Daima Super Saiyan 4 Goku. I know there's a few people out there who are not convinced that a Daima Super Saiyan 4 Goku would even be on Giant 8 power, which is obviously kind of interesting, because there is no mention of the Giant 8, there is no Giant 8 transformation, it happens in the Demon Realm. Like, I do still think they will be on Giant 8 power, but it would be interesting if they're not. But this guy, whilst he is a good buff for the Giant 8 power team, unlike the LR, he doesn't have Saiyan Raw, which is like the major Super Saiyan 4 link. They did something they don't normally do with this anniversary unit by giving this guy Saiyan Raw, because most Gogeta, Super Saiyan 4 Gogetas don't have it. I say most, there was only this guy originally and then this guy, and they didn't give them Saiyan Raw. But then they gave it to this guy because, of course, he has it pre-transformation with the base Super Saiyan 4s. But his links do change, because obviously he goes from having some of these links to having... Oh, no, that's the EZA version, not Gogeta. There's Gogeta. He obviously goes to having... actually, no, he doesn't even have Fused Fire, does he? His links don't change at all. So it's actually very different for the anniversary unit. I didn't realise he actually doesn't even have Fused Fire. So he doesn't have typical Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta links, whereas this guy obviously does. So obviously they're not going to, with an EZA, we've never seen them do that. They're not going to give him Saiyan Raw. But remember that he's also on teams like Fused Fighters, which obviously with the big anniversary characters, Power Beyond Super Saiyan Battle of Fate, he's on Earth Protecting Heroes, so he's on like the he's on the anniversary teams. I mean, obviously being on Fusion, he's going to be on the 220 for the anniversary Gogeta. Time Limit, Kamehameha, Accelerated Battle, obviously the Glorio or hit team that just constantly gets buffs. So this guy is going to be huge, whether or not Goku from Daima is on Giant 8 power or not. Like, Giant 8 power is going to get some massive buffs, and this guy is on a ton of other teams as well. So considering that the oldest TURs that don't have EZAs, we're looking at this guy, Physical Angel Frieza, the Tech Androids. I know the Tech Androids is a popular one that a lot of people want to see, but I think we said at the very beginning, asking the question, is this guy the most anticipated EZA, at least for now, right? Because obviously there are some characters that people really want to see EZA, but probably won't even this year necessarily. But in terms of EZAs that we could see soon, I feel like this guy's got to be the #1 on the list, and he probably has the highest potential, because if we look at Tech, Kale and Caulifla and then look at AGL Ginyu, a lot of people do think that they are biased with these good EZAs towards like fusion characters, right? When you see how much better Kale and Caulifla are than Ginyu, even though Ginyu came out after Tech, Kale and Caulifla. So I think this guy has a pretty good chance of being very, very good. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. What would you like to see from INT Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta's EZA? If you could design it yourself, let me know in the comments. You can either let me know like a full passive design, like full card design, or if you just have a few little things here and there, like a few things you would like to see, then obviously do let me know those as well. But just let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Do you think we will be getting Daima for the Global Dokkan campaign? That is generally the probably most popular held theory at the moment. I'm still very much on board the Daima for Global Dokkan campaign train. I think it makes a lot of sense, because there's not a lot of Daima characters to get EZAs, right? Because we don't have many Daima characters in the game yet. But by having Daima Super Saiyan 4 Goku, then it's perfectly reasonable that we could get Super Saiyan 4 EZAs. And we're going to get the Heroes Super Saiyan 4 EZAs this year as well, for the Limit Breaker Goku and Vegeta, the INT Gohan and the STR Bardock. So a lot of great stuff coming for Giant 8 power, and this Gogeta definitely could be at the pinnacle of that team. Like, imagine getting to run this guy again along with like these guys, even pre like transformation into Gogeta, that rotation is going to be very, very fun. So let me know all your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.